The sunset in Hawaii turned into the backdrop of my second heartbreak. There I was on one knee, ring box open, watching Jessica's face transform from surprise to frustration. 5 years together, and for the second time she rejected my proposal. The warning signs had always been there, but love blinded me to the truth. I thought time would change her mind, but instead, it revealed her deception. What does true love really mean? If someone can reject your heart twice. Before I dive deeper into this heartbreaking story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had your heart broken too. I met Jessica on a Tuesday afternoon at the coffee shop near my software company in Portland. I was coding on my laptop when she accidentally bumped into my table, sending her latte spilling across my keyboard. Instead of being upset, I found myself mesmerized by her genuine apology and bright green eyes. She insisted on buying me coffee the next day to make up for it. That coffee turned into dinner, and dinner turned into what I thought would be forever. Jessica captivated me from the start. Her laugh-filled rooms, her passion for environmental science matched my enthusiasm for technology, and her spontaneous nature balanced my methodical approach to life. Our first date stretched from an afternoon at Washington Park into stargazing past midnight. By the time I walked her to her apartment, I knew I had found someone special. The early months were magical. We spent weekends exploring coastal towns, hiking mountain trails, and discovering hidden restaurants. She fit seamlessly into my friend group, charming everyone with her stories and genuine interest in their lives. I noticed she rarely mentioned her family, but attributed it to her brief explanation that they lived across the country and relationships were complicated. After dating for 2 years, moving in together felt natural. We found a spacious apartment with a view of Mount Hood and spent weekends hunting for furniture that reflected both our styles. Combining our lives felt right, like completing a puzzle. I loved coming home to her music playing and dinner preparations underway. Our Sunday brunches, movie nights, and morning coffee routines became the framework of what I believed was our lifetime together. But looking back, I see the red flags I willfully ignored. Whenever I mentioned marriage or children, Jessica would skillfully change the subject. When friends announced engagements, her congratulations seemed forced, followed by comments about people rushing into commitment. When I casually mentioned wedding venues I liked, she would simply nod without engaging. The family introduction issue became increasingly concerning. 2 years into our relationship, I still had not met her parents. First, it was because they were traveling extensively after retirement. Then, it was family drama she did not want to subject me to. Next came excuses about their health making visits difficult. Meanwhile, my parents and sister had embraced Jessica, completely inviting her to holiday gatherings and treating her like family. An odd tension emerged when Jessica met my college friend Thomas. While friendly to my other friends, she was noticeably cold toward him later, claiming his personality reminded her of someone who had hurt her. Similarly, she showed unexplained discomfort around my female friends, particularly my childhood friend Amanda. She would decline invitations if certain friends were attending, gradually isolating me from people I had known for years. My friends noticed before I did. Ryan pulled me aside at his birthday gathering, asking if everything was okay with Jessica after observing her tense reaction when I mentioned wanting to settle down eventually. My sister questioned why Jessica changed the subject whenever marriage came up in conversation. I dismissed their concerns, attributing them to misunderstandings or bad timing. I was in love, and love I believed would overcome any obstacle. For our 3-year anniversary, I decided it was time to make Jessica officially mine forever. I saved for 6 months to purchase a 1-carat diamond ring with a vintage setting that reminded me of jewelry she admired in antique stores. The emerald accents matched her eyes perfectly. I spent weeks researching jewelers, visiting 7 stores before finding the perfect design. I made reservations at Riverside, the upscale restaurant where we had celebrated our first anniversary. The place held special memories for us, from the view of the Willamette River to the chocolate soufflé we always shared for dessert. I coordinated with the manager to have champagne ready and a secluded table by the window. The plan was perfect, the ring was perfect, and I believed our relationship was perfect too. Ryan accompanied me on my final ring selection, offering moral support and practical advice. He seemed hesitant when I showed him my choice, asking if I was certain Jessica was ready for marriage. I brushed off his concern, convinced I knew her heart better than anyone. That sake the night before the proposal, I barely slept, rehearsing my speech and imagining her joyful tears. The evening started beautifully. Jessica wore a black dress. I had always loved her hair. Swept up elegantly. The restaurant had scattered rose petals on our table, and the server was discreetly aware of my plans. But throughout dinner, Jessica seemed distracted, checking her phone repeatedly and responding to my conversation with minimal engagement. I attributed her behavior to work stress, determined not to let it affect my plans. When the dessert arrived, I took a deep breath, reached for her hand, and slid down to one knee beside our table. Several diners noticed, smiling in anticipation. The ring box opened with a soft click, revealing the diamond catching the candlelight. Jessica, these past 3 years have been the happiest of my life, I began. I want to spend forever, making you as happy as you make me. Will you marry me? The silence felt eternal. Her expression shifted from shock to something resembling discomfort, even annoyance. The surrounding tables had gone quiet, waiting for the joyful response that never came. I cannot, she said quietly, looking around at the watching eyes. Not here. Not now. The drive home was excruciating. No words, just the occasional sigh from Jessica, and the sound of rain against the windshield matching my internal storm. I clutched the steering wheel so tightly. My knuckles turned white. The ring box a heavy weight in my pocket. Back at our apartment, the dam broke. Jessica paced our living room, arms crossed defensively. Why would you put me on the spot like that? She demanded. In front of strangers. When you know I am not ready, how would I know that? I countered, confusion mixing with hurt. We have been together for 3 years. We live together. We talk about the future all the time. Future trips, future career moves, not marriage, she clarified. I love you, Ashford, but I am not ready for that step. Maybe in a few years, but not now. I asked for a clear timeline, something concrete to hold on to. Her answers remained vague. She spoke of career goals, travel aspirations, financial security, all reasonable concerns, but none with definite resolutions. By dawn, exhausted and heartbroken, I agreed to put marriage aside temporarily. I loved her too much to lose her, even if it meant postponing my dream of making her my wife. The rejection changed us. Jessica stayed out later, claiming work events and drinks with colleagues I had never met. Our physical intimacy decreased, with Jessica often claiming exhaustion or headaches. Conversations became surface level, avoiding any topic that might lead to discussions of commitment. I found myself walking on eggshells, afraid that pushing too hard would drive her away completely. 6 months after the rejected proposal, I discovered messages on her laptop when borrowing it to check email while mine charged. She had left her social media open, revealing months of conversations with someone named James. The exchanges were flirtatious, filled with inside jokes and references to shared memories. With a sick feeling, I scrolled up to find older messages confirming my suspicion that James was an ex-boyfriend she had told me was completely out of the picture. When confronted, Jessica downplayed the connection, insisting they were just old friends reconnecting. The messages contained no explicit evidence of physical cheating, giving me just enough doubt to reluctantly accept her explanation, despite the inappropriate nature of their communications. She promised to create better boundaries, and desperate to believe her, I did. I suggested couples therapy to address our communication issues. Jessica refused, claiming we could work things out ourselves. Instead, I planned more date nights, romantic gestures, and weekend getaways, trying to recapture our earlier connection. I began handling more household responsibilities, surprising her with gifts, and complimenting her more frequently, as if I could earn the commitment I desired through sheer effort. Temporarily, things improved. Jessica became more attentive, initiating intimacy and planning activities together. She stopped checking her phone constantly when we were together and began coming home at reasonable hours. I convinced myself we had weathered the storm, that the proposal rejection had been a necessary wake-up call. to strengthen our relationship before taking the next step. Looking back, I see I was trying to convince myself of a reality that did not exist. 2 years after my first failed proposal, I believe timing and circumstances had aligned perfectly for a second attempt. Jessica had recently started mentioning marriage, positively pointing out engagement rings in store windows and asking which wedding venues I preferred. She brought up having children someday and discussed what suburbs might be best for family life. I interpreted these comments as clear signals she was finally ready. My friends had mixed reactions when I shared my plans. Ryan and my brother cautioned me to be certain, while others encouraged my optimism. Amanda warned me directly, saying Jessica's sudden change seemed suspicious, but I attributed her concern to lingering tension between the two women. I wanted so badly to believe Jessica had come around naturally that I dismissed all warnings. I spent 6 months saving for a Hawaii vacation, selecting an oceanfront suite at a luxury resort on Maui. The package included a private dinner on the beach at sunset, which would provide the perfect proposal setting. I researched professional photographers and hired one to capture the moment discreetly. For the ring, I chose something completely different from my first attempt, a sleek platinum band with a princess-cut diamond, more modern and aligned with Jessica's evolving taste in jewelry. For weeks, I practiced my proposal speech, focusing on our growth together and the future rather than the past. I wanted to acknowledge the journey we had taken since the first proposal, framing it as necessary development that strengthened our bond. The night before our flight, I called my parents to share my plans, receiving their cautious blessing. Our first days in Hawaii were paradise. Jessica seemed more affectionate than she had been in months, holding my hand as we walked along beaches and kissing me spontaneously while watching sunsets. We snorkeled with sea turtles, hiked to waterfalls, and fell asleep to the sound of ocean waves. Her phone remained mostly in the room, safe, a positive change from her usual constant checking. Yet there were moments that should have given me pause. Twice, I woke to find Jessica on the balcony whispering on her phone in the early morning hours. She claimed it was work emergencies despite being on vacation. Once she disappeared for over an hour during a resort event, returning with the weak explanation that she had gotten lost exploring the grounds. I wanted our trip to be perfect, so badly that I buried these concerns beneath my excitement. On our fourth evening, everything was arranged for the proposal. The resort staff had set up a secluded dining area on the beach, with tiki torches, flower petals, and champagne on ice. The photographer was positioned discreetly nearby, ready to capture the moment. I had the ring box tucked securely in my pocket, my heart racing with anticipation rather than doubt. Jessica looked stunning in a white sundress against the backdrop of golden sand and blue ocean. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, I decided the moment had arrived. I took her hands in mine, guiding her to stand in what I knew would be the perfect photo location. Jessica, I began, my voice catching slightly with emotion. These past 5 years have been an incredible journey. Before I could continue, her expression changed, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. As I dropped to one knee and withdrew the ring box, her features hardened into something between frustration and anger. "Are you serious right now?" she interrupted, stepping backward. I thought I made myself clear the first time, Ashford. The photographer froze awkwardly nearby, camera half raised. The resort staff setting up our dinner pretended not to notice the unfolding disaster. I remained on one knee, ring box open, feeling as though I was suddenly in someone else's nightmare. "You have been talking about marriage," I said weakly. "Children, houses in the suburbs, wedding rings." "I was making conversation," she snapped. "That does not mean I want to marry you." The walk back to our resort was excruciating, both of us silent and separated by an invisible wall that felt miles thick. The photographer had quietly disappeared, sparing me the additional humiliation of canceling the photo package in person. The uneaten dinner would later appear as a charge on our room bill, salt in an already gaping wound. In our hotel suite, the full truth finally emerged in a devastating flood. Jessica paced the room, alternating between defensive anger and cold calculation. "I have been seeing someone else," she finally admitted, after an hour of circular arguments. "For months now. His name was Brian, a coworker I had heard mentioned casually but never met. Their affair had begun shortly after my first proposal and continued intermittently since then. The times our relationship had improved coincided with their breakups and cooling periods. The recent marriage talk had been her way of keeping me invested while she decided between us a backup plan she was cultivating. "I never intended to marry you," she confessed, her voice devoid of the emotion that was overwhelming me. "I stayed because it was comfortable, because our life together was convenient. Brian understands me in ways you never have." Every word felt like a physical blow. 5 years of my life, countless dreams, all the love I had given reduced to a comfortable arrangement she maintained while pursuing her true desires elsewhere. The betrayal was so complete that I could barely process its dimensions. "Those calls in Hawaii," I managed to ask. "They were to him." She nodded, not even attempting to deny it. "He wanted me to tell you before the trip. I should have listened." I slept in the hotel lobby that night, unable to share a bed with the stranger my girlfriend had become. At dawn, I called the airline and changed my flight to the earliest available departure. While Jessica swam in the ocean, blissfully unbothered by the destruction she had caused, I packed my belongings and left a brief note. "There is nothing left to say. Do not contact me. It is over." The flight home alone was a blur of miniature whiskey bottles and silent tears. I hoped my fellow passengers did not notice. Jessica called 17 times before I landed, leaving voicemails that ranged from angry accusations to tearful apologies. I listened to none of them, completely deleting each after the first few seconds. Our final conversation happened by phone the next day. She claimed Brian had ended things upon learning she had gone to Hawaii with me, leaving her suddenly alone. Her tears seemed genuine but self-serving, focused entirely on her loss rather than the pain she had caused. "We can work this out," she pleaded. "I made a mistake, but our history means something." "Our history is a lie," I responded, surprised by the steadiness in my voice despite my shattered heart. "There is nothing to work out because there is nothing left." Ryan and my brother helped me move my things from our apartment the following weekend. Jessica was conveniently absent, having arranged to be out during our scheduled time. While packing, I discovered hotel receipts from weekends. She had claimed to be visiting a college friend, additional evidence of her deception. Each revelation was another crack in my already broken heart, but also confirmation that my decision to leave was the only possible choice. Jessica attempted reconciliation for weeks afterward, sending gifts to my temporary housing at my brother's place, showing up at my office with tears and promises, even enlisting mutual friends to advocate on her behalf. Each time I remained firm in my decision, though the temptation to believe her renewed commitment occasionally weakened my resolve. The thought of 5 wasted years pulled me backward, while the memory of her callous admission pushed me forward into an uncertain but necessary future alone. The first months after the breakup were the darkest of my life. I moved into my brother's guest room, temporarily unable to face the prospect of apartment hunting while still struggling to eat and sleep normally. My work performance suffered enough that my supervisor suggested taking personal leave, which I reluctantly accepted. Days blended together in a fog of grief, anger, and regret. I lost 15 pounds in the first month, my appetite vanishing completely some days. Sleep came in broken fragments, interrupted by dreams of Jessica or sudden recollections of warning signs I had ignored. I declined social invitations, avoided dating apps my well-meaning friends suggested, and spent hours replaying every moment of our relationship, searching for the exact point where everything went wrong. Gradually, support from unexpected sources helped build a foundation for recovery. Ryan checked on me daily, sometimes just sitting in silence. When words failed, my sister drove from Seattle twice monthly, filling my refrigerator with home-cooked meals and removing the empty alcohol bottles without judgment. My parents called every Sunday, offering wisdom from their own past heartbreaks without pressuring me to feel better faster than was natural. My colleague Mark surprised me by sharing his own story of betrayal and introducing me to a support group for people healing from relationship trauma. Initially skeptical, I found unexpected comfort in those meetings where strangers understood exactly the cyclical nature of grief and betrayal recovery. Hearing others further along in their healing journeys gave me hope when mine seemed impossible. 3 months after the breakup, I started therapy with a counselor specializing in betrayal trauma. Dr. Landry helped me understand that my tendency to ignore red flags stemmed from childhood patterns and fear of abandonment. Our weekly sessions became anchors in the stormy sea of recovery, giving me tools to process anger without being consumed by it, and to grieve without losing myself completely. 6 months after Hawaii, I signed a lease on a small apartment across town in a neighborhood Jessica and I had never frequented. The act of choosing a space that was entirely mine, decorated only to my taste, became unexpectedly therapeutic. I adopted a rescue dog, a gentle Labrador mix named Bodhi, whose routine needs forced me outdoors daily, regardless of my emotional state. I rediscovered abandoned hobbies, joining a local rock climbing gym, and returning to the piano lessons I had enjoyed in college. Weekends previously spent with Jessica transformed into hiking trips with Ryan, cooking classes. I had always wanted to try and volunteer work at an animal shelter. Each new experience or rekindled interest added another brick to the foundation of my reconstructed life. My career, which had faltered immediately after the breakup, became a source of pride and focus. I channeled emotional energy into a major project that had intimidated me previously, earning recognition from senior management and eventually a promotion. The professional confidence boost rippled into other areas of my life, reminding me of capabilities that existed independently of my failed relationship. 8 months after our breakup, Jessica appeared unannounced at my new workplace. She had lost weight, dark circles under her eyes, suggesting she was not sleeping well. According to colleagues who witnessed her arrival, she had paced the lobby for 20 minutes before asking for me. Security called up, giving me the choice to refuse the visit. Something in me needed closure, so I agreed to 5 minutes in the public coffee shop adjacent to our building. Brian and I ended badly, she confessed immediately, tears welling. He was seeing other women the entire time. The irony is not lost on me. She detailed her regrets, claiming to have recognized too late what she had discarded so carelessly. Her apology seemed sincere, punctuated by genuine tears and vulnerable admissions of her mistakes. The old me would have embraced her, accepting the apology as a gateway to reconciliation. The new me recognized the familiar pattern of her returning when other options disappeared. "I forgive you," I said after she finished, surprising both of us with words I had not planned. But forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. Some doors cannot be reopened once closed. Her expression crumpled, hope extinguished. "You have changed," she whispered. "Yes," I agreed. That was necessary. 1 year after the failed Hawaiian proposal, my life bore little resemblance to the one I had shared with Jessica. My new apartment had become a true home filled with books. I had always wanted to read artwork that spoke to me, and furniture chosen solely for my comfort. My expanded social circle included people Jessica would never have approved of, bringing diverse perspectives and authentic connections I had forgotten were possible. I had begun cautiously dating again, approaching relationships with clearer boundaries and greater awareness of warning signs. Each date was an opportunity to practice vulnerability without abandoning discernment. Some connections fizzled quickly. Others developed into meaningful friendships, and one showed promising potential for something deeper when I was ready. Most importantly, I had developed a relationship with myself based on respect rather than criticism. The voice in my head that had constantly questioned my worthiness now acknowledged my strength in surviving betrayal and rebuilding. The desperate need for external validation that had kept me clinging to a doomed relationship transformed into quiet confidence in my own judgment and choices. The painful experience with Jessica taught me that rejection, however devastating, can sometimes be protection from a deeper future wound. True love cannot exist without honesty, and commitment means little without integrity behind it. The warning signs I ignored were actually gifts. I refused to unwrap each, offering the truth I was not ready to see. I learned that walking away from someone you love is sometimes the greatest act of self-love possible, that rebuilding after betrayal reveals strength you never knew existed, that the end of one dream can become the foundation for many new ones, and most importantly, that you can survive what once seemed unsurvivable, emerging, not just intact, but somehow more authentic than before. Have you ever experienced betrayal in a relationship? How did you find your way forward? Share your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of healing and transformation. The road to recovery is rarely straight, but knowing others have walked it successfully makes the path a little less lonely. Thank you for listening to my story today. Remember that sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. Your heart deserves someone who chooses you completely, every single day.